Hi, Chantel.
Hi, Ron.
Hello.
It's good to see you.
Likewise. You okay?
I'm doing good. Kelly's
Great.
doing good too.
Okay, super. Thank you.
No problem.
They're still working on that.
Jim and Carolyn, we're wanting to have an impromptu meeting, board meeting to approve Reggie's membership. I think you've already voted online, but we're missing one vote. It has to be 100% electronically. If you could raise your hand and say you're okay with Reggie joining the club, then we'll just do it the same thing here and we'll have an official vote. Thank you.
All right.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you who are here at the atrium with us, and also a warm welcome to all our people who are joining us via Zoom. Glad to have you. Have a good crowd today and a very interesting program. Our own Dave Hargrove is going to talk to us about 5G transition, which I think a lot of us would be interested in hearing about. And we'll introduce Dave a little later in the program and look forward to his presentation. But first, we'd like to start with Bill Renfro leading us in song. All right, does anybody know what tomorrow is, holiday-wise? We're celebrating the death of Ireland. St. Patrick. Best Irish tenor voice. When Irish eyes are smiling like a morning spring, in the lilt of Irish laughter, you can hear the angels sing. When Irish hearts are happy, all the world feels bright and gay. And when Irish eyes are smiling, they'll fill your heart away. Second time, when Irish eyes are smiling, like a morning spring. Irish laughter, you can hear the angels sing. When Irish hearts are happy, all the world hey, and when Irish eyes are smiling, thank you, Bill. I believe Bill Renfro is scheduled to lead us in our pledge today.
Place the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bill. Now, Paul Freeman will lead us in prayer.
Pray with me, please. Dear Father, we come to you today thanking you for all the great miracles that you have made in our lives and that we've been able to see. We ask your blessing on those who are suffering in Ukraine. Help them. Help us to know how we can help them. And as Rotary, what is it that we might be able to do? Dear Lord, we ask you to take the food that we're about to eat today and bless it. Help nourish us so that we can be of greater service to thee. These things I ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Enjoy your lunch. We'll be back with you in just a few minutes.
You all been to Not that I know.
Hey, Melissa. Hey, we're gonna do a board meeting after. Can you hear me?
Everybody got music big.
Can you hear me?
You know, maybe got paint fry.
Can you hear me, Melissa?
Melissa, I hear you. I mean,
You can hear me, Jim?
I
can hear you too, Marcia.
Okay, so we are going to do a real short, quick board meeting after this meeting to vote in one of the fellows that wants to become a Rotarian. We can't get Curtis Hunt to do his email vote. So we've got a quorum with the guys online that are part of the board and with people here. So we can go ahead and do that because we don't want him to think that there's a reason why we're not voting him in. So if you just give us a few minutes after the regular meeting. Thank you.
We have to have 100% vote and we're missing the one. So that's all we need,
Yeah.
guys.
That's right.
Yeah. We really want to get Reggie in, and Reggie, we want you.
Yeah, yeah, and so if we do is, if we
Thank
have,
you.
we'll have a quorum, and we'll be able to get that vote done.
They've been around for a while. Dr. Astor, she hasn't. Hey. So they've definitely existed, but they are gaining something. Especially the last couple of years.
Doesn't mean that we all did. Not gonna be honest, don't give me too much credit. I'm going to Jay Alexander for dinner tonight. It's been a video.
Fitting in some ways. Surgery on
I think you're
Reggie's on there too.
Hey, Melissa. Melissa, did you vote you voted electronically to approve Reggie? Can you raise your hand and say in person that you approved him?
Jim,
Yes.
everyone voted with the exception of one.
I approve.
And we had to have 100% for online voting. So we're going around and collecting votes of in-person people who are actually here. We only need one more. So Melissa or Mary, if you two vote, you got it.
Yes.
Got it.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
Jim, can I send out the 7-day notice today?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Go this afternoon.
She started getting a little wobbly. I got her into the neurologist. 2-3 weeks. And it was already so big when they did the MRI, like I don't read MRI, and I can look at you and tell you what's happening. Yeah. But yeah, we're lucky we have a neurologist here in town now, a canine neurologist. I had a dog, a client that had a pug too, as well. Well, he started having some symptoms, so we had to send him up to Nashville that time to start here. Yeah, surgery removed this real slow. At least for another 3 years. Past recently. So slow. Like they were to get every day. It took a long time before we had major symptoms again.
But you can choose to sponsor after the we'll make it all.
Well, that's like when my dog got her teeth was growing real fast. And she started getting a lot of anxiety. She didn't understand why she couldn't use her back. You know, and I was trying to help her. She was a really big dog. And just, you know, within a week's time,
Have your attention,
Like,
please.
you could tell.
We have a pretty busy schedule today, and we'll leave plenty of time for Dave Hargrove to talk about 5G transition. So I wanted to go ahead and bring up a couple of announcements for you. Of course, we do have Dave Hargrove with us today to talk about 5G transition. And then we got some very interesting programs coming up in the very near future, including March 23rd, who is Vice President of World Games. 2022, of course, is happening in Birmingham. He's going to come and speak to us about World Games, March 30th. Neil Lamb from Hudson Alpha is going to talk to us about the current status and what we know about the COVID vaccines at the present time. And then got the Director of Broadcasting for the Trash Pandas, Josh Carey, who's been with us before. He's going to give us an update on the Trash Pandas and how their programs are going. And then on the 20th of April, Jim French is going to talk about our robotics team and what they've been up to in our recent trip to Anderson, South Carolina, in a regional competition, and in the regional competition coming up in Huntsville early in April. And then on April 27th, we're going to have a special treat. We're going to have a children's choir provide entertainment, live entertainment for us. So we got a great lineup coming up, and hope that all of you can either join us by Zoom or join us in person. I wonder if Roger Qualls could come up and talk to us about HEALS. They had quite a service activity.
Okay. Okay, so you can see, Cliff wanted, he just kept pestering me. We've done wheelchair ramp, we know how to do wheelchair ramp, let's do something else. On a cold winter snowy day, we helped HEALS. They had a medical clinic that they couldn't keep the floor clean. The flooring was nice concrete, but it, it had little holes in it because it's very decorative. It was hell to try to keep clean. So we were going to do their mobile home, but now she's buying another trailer. So this was the front office. But anyway, anybody that enjoys kneeling all day long, come do it. It's easy work. All you got to do is snap the tile together and keep on snapping. Right? Just snap it together. Right? Right? An easy do-it-yourselfer. No, I'm kidding. Maybe one more. Oh, apparently not. Sorry. There was one. The nice thing is we're still useful of people that want to kneel down, particularly on Saturday, because the problem is the clinic was just full of stuff and we kind of moved out of the way. So after we get the floor down, we need to move all their stuff back in. And why would we want nurses and doctors to do the stuff that we can do? But we need to thank Pete and Cliff for running this, as they always do on wheelchair ramps. If we didn't have the guidance, we'd been sitting around there playing all day. Thank you so much. Oh, there's the HR. Yeah, it takes all different kinds of skills, but you notice everybody's on their knees. So be sure and bring your pads, knee pads.
And with that in mind, Cliff canceled the ramp build this week so they can focus on completing the HEALS job. So the ramp build that we had planned to do this week is going to pivot to HEALS and complete that job before we go on to our next ramp build.
9th of April.
9th of April.
Mark your calendar.
9th of April.
I'll be asking.
The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is assistance from Rotary to Ukraine. Our district governor and his staff made the decision to take the remaining designated district funds that we had for this Rotary year and apply them toward humanitarian relief for Ukraine. So over $20,000 will go to Ukrainian relief efforts to help the refugees who are fleeing the conflict. And also Rotary has set up an opportunity for Rotarians to donate directly to that aid, and the address there on the bottom is where you can go personally if you want to and contribute to Ukrainian relief effort.
Mhm.
Uganda. Roger, anything said about Uganda?
Yes, a shout out to Nicole. Nicole,
Yes.
shout out to you and your husband Barry. She noticed that the kids were needing chairs in Uganda. And Barry took us over to UAH. UAH was demolishing. And we were able to salvage 94 chairs.
And I think Joanne has a few words to say about our upcoming fundraiser, Kentucky Derby.
All right. We're just gonna stay on this one.
Right,
so, yeah, This is my fault. I had some technical difficulties at my office. So we're going to skip our presentation of our sponsors for today. I'll give you a quick update. Next week, they'll be perfect. I'll have it done correctly. We'll see how that goes. So the good news is that Five Stones Research came on as our title sponsor. Yay! To our club member, Jody Green, for that sponsorship. Also, and I don't know if he's in or not, zooming in Zoom land, but Reed Kloss came in as a Triple Crown sponsor this week. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Perfect. So these are the sponsorship levels. Marcia and I had a very high level conversation this week. And we determined that since this is the fundraiser that everyone is assessed one ticket for, and the quarterly statements go out, we're going to close this at April 1st. So the way this is going to work is if you have already said that you're going to sponsor at whatever level you said you were going to sponsor, or if you want an additional ticket for your spouse, your sponsorship, your ticket amount will be credited, okay? You won't have to buy a ticket and the sponsorship, you just buy the sponsorship. If you have not bought a sponsorship by April 1st, on your Rotary statement, you will be assessed for one ticket pursuant to the bylaws of the club. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody, okay? And so we're very excited. We've got over $17,000 committed at this stage. We're all profit now. Everything we make from this point on is going directly into the foundation. So thanks to everybody for supporting it. I will be collecting wine bottles if anybody has an extra bottle of wine, because rumor has it there's going to be a wine wheel as one of the games there. So see you then.
All right. Thank you, Joanne.
We need to clarify that.
I did want to bring up one other announcement
Yes,
before you.
full bottles. Thank you. Yes, those are prizes. If you win the wine wheel, no empty wine bottles. Good point.
I did have one announcement of my own before we get to introduction of our visiting Rotarians and visiting guests. I did want to tell you that Jim French and myself accompanied the Jemison robotics team to Anderson, South Carolina last Wednesday morning through Sunday morning about 1 a.m. For a regional robotics competition. And I would say that the trip was a success. We didn't score very high in the final scoring, but we learned a lot. We had our team's robot on the playing field for all 11 of our matches. We scored almost every match. And we found some weaknesses in our robot that we're in the process of fixing. And our team gained a lot of valuable experience. The young people were great. They jumped in and got things done. They worked hard, they worked late, and in the end had a great time. So I wanted to thank the Rotary Club for your support of the Jemison robotics team. It's really making a difference in these young people's lives. And if you could have seen it, you would have really been proud of it. Jim French and I talked about how in the world can we come back here and explain to you what one of these competitions is like. And I'd have to say the best thing we came up with is the cross between intense robotics competition and a rock concert. That's the best we could come up with. And with that, I'd like to bring Larry Creech up to introduce our visiting Rotarians and our guests.
Well, I asked the Rotarian to introduce their guests, and
our first guests are Rudy Chavez as guests.
Brothers and sisters, Rotarians, I want to share with you that earlier last week, I received a call from Rick and Louise, wanting to know, they're from Coleman, wanting to know about serving the community. So Rick, please stand up, and Louise, stand up. And I said, well, you've got to come to the Rotary Club and you'll get a lot of information on how to serve the community. And between Roger, they're already getting a lot of information, so thank you.
And guests, if you would remain standing, and we'll hold our applause to all the guests and visiting Rotarians are called. Carol, TV pause, yes.
I'm pleased to welcome Marcy Wingo back again today. This is a potential Rotarian, so please give her a very good Rotarian.
And Joe Newberry has two guests, but he's not here, so I'll introduce those. Lisa Witt with Redstone, and Terry Bentley with Redstone, Federal Credit Union.
That's a visiting Rotarian.
And also a visiting Rotarian. We have two other visiting Rotarian, a regular Robert Barnes with Madison, and Dwayne Babo from Holman, Wisconsin. Guys, please stand. Let's welcome all our guests.
I did want to give Rick and Louise a few minutes to talk to our Rotary Club about what they are doing in the way of service.
So my name is Richard Neese. I'm a real estate broker as well as a small developer for commercial. Louise and I have been working towards servicing a community and a population that isn't being serviced well. The Spanish speakers as far as financing goes, as far as buying homes goes. So Louise is trilingual. We brought him on about 4 months ago.
Stand from like so our Zoom distance.
So Louise has been working with him for about 3 months, and his primary goal is outreach. We're trying to put together a team that can service Spanish speakers so they feel comfortable in the community, so they can be a part of the community in a way that homeownership, the American dream allows. And so we're pushing hard for that. And we're also trying to grow that. So we're looking for different service members, whether that's a certified public accountant that speaks Spanish or whatever that might be, to build that team, the team that has a servant's heart in order for us to service more people on a daily basis.
Well, the big question was, where is Chris Kern and Reed Floss? Well, guess where they are? Yeah. So they'll be back with us next week. We'll give them a hard time then. And with that, I'd like Cliff to come forward and introduce our guest speaker today.
Adding on to Roger's plea, we have you got to be able to kneel. You know what I mean? And so, coming from a Catholic background, it's very easy for me. But however, one of the things that has occurred to me, and it was one of those blinding things that happened to you Saturday night after you had a few, and that is, I have fulfilled my requirement for 2022 on kneeling. You know? And now we're going to go back out there again on Friday and Saturday to finish off this project. We're about 60% done, and it's going to be great for the community and great for those kids and the HEALS program overall. So I tell you what, really thanks very much. And Gray is, I saw Gray come in here. Gray right there, and he's going to come out and help us help us on Saturday. So if anybody has something to wants to come out and kneel a little bit, please see me. I'll give you directions, give you the times, and we'll be doing a great job for us. I'll tell you. So with that, I want to introduce a friend of Rotary. He was the past president of this Rotary Club from 2004 2005. And I tell you what, one of the things that I want to mention, and we sent the his bio out to everyone, so we're not going to go through that. I just would like to say he is probably the premier community leader. Anytime he got involved with the board or any organization. Very shortly after that, he gravitated to be the leader, the chair of that organization. And that is fulfilled across the board here in Huntsville. When you say Dave Hargrove, people say, oh, I know him from the Madison County Board. Oh, I know him from when he was over here doing this. Oh, I don't know when he has time to do his real job. But I tell you what, he has done a great job for the community of Huntsville here. It gives me great pleasure here to have him come up and talk about 5G. So Dave, thank you. Well, there are plenty of people in this room who you mentioned their names, and people will know them from a lot of different organizations. That's very kind of you, Cliff, and it's really wonderful to be back. I got a little emotional over there. Not too emotional, but I got a little emotional. The thing I worried most about is whether you could still hear Cliff Broderick without a microphone. And whether your Zoom folks would be able to hear him without being at the podium. I guess I don't have to worry about that anymore, right? But great to see everybody. I miss this club. I miss Rotary. Many of you may know that with AT&T, I'm in the governmental affairs division, so I'm technically, and I hope you'll continue to allow me to speak today after I tell you this, but I'm a registered lobbyist in Alabama, so I spend a lot of time in Montgomery, spend a lot of time with cities and counties in the northern 21 counties of Alabama. So I'm on the road a lot, and it got to where I just couldn't be here on Wednesdays. Then I tried the Tuesday Club, the Huntsville Rotary Club, and was not able to be there on Tuesdays because the legislature, of course, meets on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. But I hope to come back, hope things settle down. Who knows what the future holds? And I remember my original Rotary Club, so good to see you. This is going to look very technical, but it's not going to be. I'm not a technologist, so I'm going to keep this as simple as I can. It would be easy, and I was asked to speak about 5G today, and it would be easy to dismiss it as just the next big thing or a marketing ploy. But if we do dismiss it, there's really no reason for me to speak today. So I will proceed, but I'll try to keep it short. There's some key words there at the bottom that I want you to just remember when I'm done today. 5G is short for fifth generation. We had 1G, we had 2G, we had third generation, we had fourth generation, and we had something known as fourth generation LTE. Some of you may have seen the LTE on your phones, and some of you have the newer smartphones that have the 5G in the corner. We had 5GE for a while, which was 5G evolution. And you'll thank me for not explaining all of those to you. But I will differentiate a couple of those here in a slide, but I do want these words to stick with you. It's fifth generation wireless broadband technology. And the key advantages are speed, but we always say these new generations are going to be faster. I think these last two are more significant, and that is more connectivity. We have more and more devices connecting to the internet, and less delay. And that's critically important when you have applications like, applications like autonomous vehicles, traffic control, where you can't afford to have delays. We call that latency. You want to know when to brake. You want your autonomous vehicle to know when to brake. So you have to have real-time data and communications coming at you. So 5G is going to enable a whole new wave of technology. Some of it's scary, some of it's reassuring. I happen to be less afraid of autonomous vehicles than I am of manned vehicles. But we'll see how that technology matures over time. The first slide is very non-technical. I got to thinking, how do I want to start this presentation? And how can I guess, affect everybody personally where you kind of recognize what I'm talking about? How many of you have smartphones? Who wants to tell me how many apps you think you have on your phone right now? An Android or an Apple?
Probably 35. Probably 35.
35.
Over 100.
Yeah.
It'll be more.
I guarantee you, if you haven't counted them, it will be more. You know how many I have on my phone?
200.
170. Close. 170 apps. When the iPhone originally came out, and I'm trying to remember the date here, I have it in my notes, but it's been 2007, which was 15 years ago. It's hard to believe it's that long. The original iPhone, you may recall, had only a handful of apps on it. There were no third-party apps on the original iPhone, just the Apple clock, calculator, mail, calendar. There weren't all these other apps that we're talking about now. But count them just for grins if you have absolutely nothing to do this afternoon. And I think you'll be surprised at how many you have. So what does that mean that I'm able to do with my phone? And I had a customer come to me the other day, and I have this frequently where they say, do you know how much I spend with your company every month? I say, well, what all, I appreciate that first, you're helping me pay my mortgage, but what all do you have with us? Well, I've got the wireless with the unlimited, and I've got 8 people in my family on the same plan. Oh, and by the way, I have your TV service, and I have the sports package, and I have the premium streaming package, and all this. And I really appreciate all this. And they say, I really wish you'd find a way, though, to get the wireless bill down a little bit. And I got to thinking, okay, compared to what? And I even tried to distance myself from doing what I do for a living. Compared to what? And we all have a different definition of value. Value is not saving money. Value, if you look at the definition, is a combination of, am I really willing to pay what I'm paying to get the benefits that I desire from that product or service? That's really what value is. Is it a good combination of price and benefit? And if you look at a smartphone, hit the right button here. Does this give you a shock or something?
Oh, only if you push the wrong button.
Less delay.
Oh, and welcome to the folks on Zoom. I see a lot of longtime friends there in your various windows. It may be too big a file size. What do you think? We may need more connectivity and bandwidth. Let me throw out a few more keywords while I'm up here. Try it manually over there. I'll tell an old speaker's joke. I asked Cliff if I could speak till 1:30, and he said, yeah, you can speak till 1:30. We won't be here then. So is this going to penalize my time?
No.
Well, let me go from my notes here. How about that? Hope it didn't hurt too bad. All right, what do I do with my phone? And I didn't think it would be this small, but I manage my life with my phone. I have my calendar and to-do list. All my contact information is in here. Message and video conference with my people, family, friends, work through voice text. Track my belongings. I can apply for a job on this. Don't tell my folks at AT&T about that, though. Information I can find any fact. And yes, I know each of you have your own definition of what a fact is. So I understand that. But you can find just about anything on the internet at a moment's notice. Remember the time when we had to sit around and remember what an actor's name was or what the capital of Wyoming was? Watch and read local, national, global news and sports, real-time location-based weather, books and magazines, entertainment, music, any song currently available, I can pull up on my phone right now. Unknown songs, I have a little app on my watch. When I hear something in a restaurant, I just pop that and it tells me what the song is, and I can put it on a Spotify playlist right there. Manage all my family photos and videos, stream movies and series, take high quality photos and organize those. Buy anything, and I mean anything now. Order takeout and groceries, control my smartphone, monitor home security devices, monitor my health, exercise with a personal trainer, my own personal trainer on my phone. book all my travel plans, find an open parking space from blocks away, hail ground transportation, personal finances. I can scan, create, and edit documents like receipts, probably in better quality than I can on the sheet-fed scanner that I have at home. Manage my financial services, send money anywhere to anybody. I can do my taxes on that phone. So I know all of you know that. But that kind of gets back to my compared to what? What else do we own that delivers that type of value? Again, it can be scary. It can be abused. We human beings can find ways to make something bad about just about anything. But mostly, these have changed our lives for the positive, I believe. So our company's goal is to provide connectivity and to make you able to do these things, if you have to do these things, anywhere you happen to be. Wherever you live, work, or play, you have coverage, wireless coverage. That's one of the 2 C's in our business, meaning can my device connect with a cell site? And capacity, does it have the bandwidth, the spectrum, the wireless frequencies to allow me to do it in an efficient manner? I can pretty much do, and you can do with your phones now, just about everything you can do at home now. So how does it work? This looks very technical and was obviously crafted by a left-handed person. I am right-handed, so I would have gone left to right on this. We're going to go right to left here. It starts with a network. We have central offices in town. I believe probably the closest one here would be on University Drive, serving this area. We have one downtown Huntsville, Fountain Circle near the City Hall, right where they're building the new City Hall. Several of those throughout the community. Fiber optics from that central office to small cells, which you may have heard about recently. We have been working with cities and counties to get permits to allow for these new smaller antennas, which most of the time will be mounted on existing structures or poles. And then there are what we call macro cells, the larger cell sites, the towers, and wireless spectrum is necessary, those frequencies in the air that we have to bid for and bid against other providers to make that spectrum available for your high data usage. And the wireless devices all connect through that spectrum to the cell site. So you can see we have a lot of technology behind that. Fiber is the backbone to everything. And if we're going to get close to ubiquitous coverage, which is really what our expectation is, that's what we're working to do. We've already reached more than 255 million people with 5G technology. That's 16,000 cities. We have 5G plus, a newer generation of that in more than 40 cities. Stadiums and venues, which have a lot of data congestion, often have to have distributed antenna systems built into the stadium or to the venue. And we have those in about 30 major stadiums that you regularly see when you're watching sports. We expect to spend about $6 to $8 billion in CapEx nationwide as part of our C-band wireless deployment over the next couple of years. We spent about $1.5 billion just in Alabama in the last 5 years. So it's a lot of money. Spectrum is very expensive because it is only released in spurts, often from the federal government, and we have to bid, and it's usually a bidding war to get that precious spectrum available for our customers. Different types of cell sites. I mentioned the macro cells. Those are those traditional cell sites, often in the form of a tower. You see it on water tanks, buildings. We have small cells, those smaller antennas, which you'll see more and more of in the community. Small cells are generally serving a congested area within about a 500-foot range. So the closer we're able to get that technology to an area like downtown where you have a lot of people sitting outside at once and all using their phones to consume data, that's how that technology works. It's utilizing different bands of spectrum, but getting the cell site closer, but in a smaller form to the customer. And we can hand off from those macro cells and relieve some of that congestion and offload it onto the small cells. Distributed antenna system, which I mentioned, is often built inside a building. We're working with the Von Braun Center right now to try to improve coverage in and around that campus for wireless service. And of course, the Wi-Fi hot zones that we connect to quite often with these devices. So what's the difference in the Gs? I'm just going to focus really on the last two. 4G was really a leap forward, and I won't leave the mic here, but we really got into, for the first time, emulating the computer experience that we have sitting at home with a fast broadband connection. 4G and LTE brought that to mobile devices. As you can see from the previous Gs, there was just a gradual evolution, and the phones got more and more powerful and were capable of doing more and more things. 5G is the leap it is because it's really going to accelerate mobile broadband, smart cities through smart traffic. I mentioned autonomous vehicles earlier with that low latency. Access agnostic, meaning that providers can share bandwidth. Used to be just Verizon's bandwidth and our bandwidth, T-Mobile's bandwidth. We can co-locate, and we can also share that available wireless spectrum depending on whichever provider you're with. And wireless and fixed wireless, being able to provide a fast broadband connection without the expense and the disruption of digging and placing a fiber cable to a location. So we'll finally see, I think, gigabit level speeds depending on where you are and what's going on in the network. On the horizon, of course, we're going to see more and more people adopt these technologies through 5G. Public safety, we help manage the federal government's FirstNet network. That is the exclusive public safety network that came out right after the 9/11 tragedy. We had so much trouble communicating interdepartmentally between agencies, federal, state, and local. And the 9/11 Commission set up an authority called FirstNet, and we're building a dedicated public safety network where if you have a crisis or an emergency situation, heaven forbid a terrorist act, public safety officials can either preempt, completely take other traffic off the network and make it dedicated to public service, or prioritize that public safety traffic where we don't have the congestion and the fast, busy signals and everything we experienced during 9/11. And we're building that nationally, and AT&T won the contract to do that for the federal government. Healthcare applications, 5G will be available, not initially in rural areas, but eventually it will roll out to macro sites in more rural areas. It's primarily an urban technology now for congestion. Education, climate change, hospitality, and of course the automotive industry. So 5G, and just in summary, is going to take us a quantum leap to emulating that computer experience with a fiber connection at home and gigabit level speeds. It's going to decrease congestion. It's going to allow us to experience the internet, the workplace, our families, entertainment, wherever we happen to be, with whatever mobile device we happen to be using. And that's really all you need to know about 5G. It is important. It's not just a marketing ploy or a buzzword or the latest big thing. Of course, we'll start talking about 6G, and then we'll start talking about 7G, and then we'll start talking about 8G. But 4G and 5G have really accelerated us into this mobile, always connected world that we're in now. Got a question back there. Yes, sir.
What do you mean by mobile broadband?
What do I mean by it?
What does that term represent?
Well, you have mobile broadband on your phones now. If you're retrieving data, if you're streaming high definition video, you are experiencing broadband through a mobile device.
You said showed it under the 5G, like it was something additional.
Well, it's going to, and I don't sit and watch high definition 4K movies on a mobile device, and probably none of you do either. But there are people who do. There are particularly young people. I know young people who entirely experience streaming television through a mobile device. So when I referred to mobile broadband and it was misleading, it made it indicate that that wasn't available with 4G. It's just a next level of availability for higher definition video. Yes, sir.
Dave, how is AT&T with 5G dealing with the controversy of conflict with the airplane radar that tells them the height above the ground?
Great question. Did y'all hear about that in the news? Right?
Yes.
Of course, it was right just prior to a major announcement we were taking about rolling it out. And just between us folks and the Zoom and anybody else who's watching, we gave federal agencies, including the FCC and the FAA, 2 years to start studying this and working on it. We had already deployed overseas in dozens of countries successfully 5G technology close to and on airport properties. Fast forward, where we are now is we have reached kind of a compromise agreement with the FCC and FAA where there'll be certain areas around an airport. The closest airport affected now really is Birmingham. It's really not a major issue in Huntsville yet. We haven't gotten far enough along with 5G here yet. But the Shuttlesworth Airport down in Birmingham is one of the on that top 50 list that the FAA put out a couple of days before our announcement. Those problems have been resolved by regulatory agencies and stricter regulatory agencies in other countries. We believe those same solutions can be applied here and deploy this technology safely around airports. So that's the short answer. But I think a lot of it had to do with it really wasn't a priority for federal agencies to address 5G deployment. We believe it's safe, and numerous other countries believe it's also safe. If it isn't safe, it's probably bad for business for us to deploy. Yes, sir.
You hit on this a little bit, but you might expand on where you think this may go. One of the things I found running a yacht club, where every time we increased our capability with Wi-Fi or whatever it was consumed immediately. We were almost the next day looking for the next level. And every time it happened, there was more.
Yeah.
So you said you're going to get this thing to where it's infinite, I guess. Do you really think that?
I don't think it'll be infinite, because there's a finite amount of spectrum in our environment. So that will be exhausted. And then the spectrum that's allocated for other purposes, for example, the Department of Defense owns most of the spectrum that's on our planet. And periodically that's reallocated as demand on our networks increases. The FCC will reallocate that spectrum. But what's happening in your yacht club is what's happening in another industry, and another part of our business has experienced this, and that is cord cutting. People not watching live television, but streaming television over the internet. Fewer and fewer people using satellite technologies and coaxial cable technologies to stream the video. So you go around your yacht club, a lot of folks there watching high definition video, or they're streaming Netflix or binge watching a series. And people everywhere want to be able to do that. We hear a lot about the students who have to go to a McDonald's and do their homework. And that's certainly an issue and something we're concerned about and we're working to correct. But a lot of the bandwidth and the saturation on broadband networks now is video, and usually entertainment video entertainment. Hey, Cheryl.
I noticed a lot of the ARPA COVID funding is for broadband expansion. I don't know if you serve on that committee.
I don't,
Your time in Montgomery is probably to be worked out.
but we do monitor, yeah.
Multiple initiatives.
She's talking about the rescue plan funds to try to move toward having everyone in the country have a stable, reliable, and affordable broadband connection at their home. And there are unprecedented programs, an unprecedented amount of money at the state and the federal level to help subsidize those areas where it will never make sense for a private for-profit provider to take fiber to a premise in those areas. So you're going to be seeing a lot of activity in a lot of rural areas that might never have gotten broadband without that program getting broadband in the years ahead. It's still not enough money to cover everybody, but what we're happiest about is finally, after we've been trying to get on federal and state agendas for many years, broadband, that's happening, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. Part of my job is monitoring the state programs and how the state of Alabama wants to use those ARPA funds. So I'm not on the committee, but if a community identifies an unserved area and they want information about how to apply for those funds, I refer them to a DECA, and then they go through the process, and we help manage how the legislature is involved in the distribution of those funds. But it's really good news because it's kind of like the phone service was back in the 1930s. You know, you had people arguing the same things. They have a phone and I don't, and it doesn't matter whether a company can make their money back if they're going to give me a phone. I need to be able to call my relatives. I need to be able to call the police department or something. I was about to say 911. I don't think 911 was around then, but I need to be able to call the fire department if I have a fire. And as a nation, we decided, as a matter of public policy, that was such a priority, we were going to serve those areas by developing a subsidy mechanism to do that. And we're just now really doing that with broadband. Of course, broadband is a whole lot more expensive to deploy than a basic phone line.
What percentage do you think with the installations that we might get there? Would they provide half the money needed or full?
I really don't know what the total, I've never heard a total amount of what it costs to blanket the country, but we have, we'll be one of the providers with 3 or 4 of the technologies that will provide a lot of assistance, but there's going to be other providers, Verizon, Comcast, WOW, SpaceX, Amazon. We're all going to have a role in providing a technology, and ideally more than one choice for everyone in the country. And that's where we're closer now than we've ever been before.
On the auction, when y'all have to buy the frequency or bands, how do they buy them for, like 2 years, 5 years, or buy them for a long period?
It's a good question. I believe it's indefinitely because I've never heard of a time limit on it. Now, if it's not utilized properly, they can reallocate it, but we don't have any trouble utilizing it.
I'd imagine it's synonymous to how the federal government auctions off airplane routes. I mean, they auction them off for a period of time, and as long as the area is getting serviced adequately, whatever the government defines as adequately, then they continue with it. But at some point, it gets re-auctioned to the next bidder.
Yeah. Now, I believe Dish has wireless frequencies that it owns. Get a bottle of water over there. Thank you. And they're coming up on a deadline where they have to begin using it in the way that it was intended to be used. I don't know when that deadline is. Thank you. But it may be, that may be a different situation because it's been a while since they acquired it that they haven't deployed it, but I can't speak with a lot of authority about that.
They're advertising their ability a lot now. They're really advertising.
I think it's interesting when you described in 5G that the service providers can begin sharing the trunks. Because now under 4G, Marcia's got Verizon, I've got AT&T, and when we travel, we have different coverage. Sometimes I've got 1 bar, he's got 3 bars or 4 bars, and other times it's the reverse. When they get to a sharing process, then that discrepancy should go away.
It depends on the area. Usually you're going to find that more in a more congested area where there's a limitation on spectrum. Try to remember the term. I'll talk to my IT experts here at Redstone. What is the term I'm looking for where we share frequencies, spectrum frequencies? But more than likely, that is going to be in an area where there are limited bands of spectrum available. And if one provider isn't using the spectrum, that spectrum is available for another provider to use. So it's a technological capability in that area. It's probably not going to be used as often in rural areas where high data use isn't the same issue. Hey, Johnny.
Can you talk a little bit about just system-wide security? If we have attempts by our government to interfere with systems or situations in Ukraine, I'm sure your people are studying, trying to figure out how to keep the systems up.
Right. Do you want some guarantee that it's going to stay up?
Everybody wants that if the situation occurs.
I mean, we own, our assets are national assets, and they're vulnerable. Terry and Elise will tell you here in the credit union, I mean, they're under almost relentless assault on their network here. It's like whack-a-mole. You solve this problem over here and something else pops up, and it will always be that way. Kind of like software development. Software is never done. Software always is going to have something that can be corrected or improved or upgraded. So I think it will always be a work in progress. Cybersecurity is very important to us. And we think we do a really good job of protecting the network. We have a lot of threats every day, but there's no guarantees. I mean, it's something another hostile government would certainly target. FirstNet, for example, the public safety network that I was talking about earlier, I would imagine that might be a target, and there's particular emphasis put on cybersecurity with that type of application.
We've got time for one more question. Thanks for great information. For a company that plays telephone cable for AT&T for 40 years.
Great.
I recall one of your terms, blanket the country. I recall when I was 10 years old in Arkansas, placing toll cable between Pine Bluff and Alvarado. What a job. What a job. Security was really important at that time. This is just happened into it. So success to you, sir, and thank you much.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Of course, the landlines are going away. And one of the big challenges with landlines is a lot of the manufacturers and parts companies and even the workforce is not available anymore. So we're accelerating that move toward fiber to replace the old traditional, we call it POT service, plain old telephone service. You probably used that term back then. Thank y'all for having me. I enjoyed it.
And once again, a special thanks, Dave, for you coming back and talking to us. Very interesting. Thank you. With that, we'd like to adjourn the meeting with our four-way test. So can you please rise? Things we think, say, do. First, is it true? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Have a good week.
My sister.